Good morning and welcome to CIS 101. I hope you guys are doing well and you're making progress in your classes and your other life endeavors. So a little bit of review. I think most of you did very well in the previous assignment, and I just want to recap. We are in week 13. Yeah, time goes fast when you're having fun. So week 13 is right here, and we are starting work on access. So we have this couple of simulations that you're going to be working on, and these simulations are found in my IT lab. There is a short introduction video here that walks you through how to go about working on access in the simulation, and also on how to work on the mid-level exercise for access chapter 1. So some of you have already finished working on the access chapter 1 simulation, and I think there's one or two who have actually finished working on the mid-level exercise. So my suggestion is work on the simulation, attempt the exercise, and then you can come back and watch the video and try to grade and see where you made some mistakes, and you can go ahead and make some corrections. Now, it's very important that you do this mid-level exercise well, because you're going to be using the same file for the mid-level exercise in chapter 2. And I'm going to be walking you through how to work on that in a few minutes. So make sure you finish this. This file has been available for some time, and it's always advisable that you watch these videos. This is the only way that we can interact. I'm always available through the office hours, and some of you have actually been able to use this resource. So usually on Tuesdays between 10 and 11, or any other time that you're available. So I've held some classes during other times when students are available, and I'm always willing to meet with you and go through some issues. Remember the phone, I've provided with my phone number. You can always text me, call me if you have any issues, or you can post any concerns, any questions that's not very clear on the discussion board. So that's where we are. Weekly learning assignments. We are on week 13. I have opened the folder for week 14 because some of you are already ahead. So if you have finished working on chapter 1, you can go ahead and proceed to chapter 2. And in a few minutes, I'm going to be posting the video for how to go about working on this mid-level exercise. So this is a continuation of what you did in the previous chapter. So make sure you finish that file and save it well, because you're going to be using it in this level here. What I'm actually going to do is, by the end of the week, I'm going to reopen the other remaining weeks here. So in case you want to pace yourself and finish ahead of class, that is okay. So I'm going to be posting the week 15 and the week 16 samples of how to go about working on the mid-level exercise and a few of the simulation. So if you want to finish the assignments a little bit earlier, you're welcome to do that. I know we are heading towards Thanksgiving and the holidays, and there's a lot of things coming up. COVID is picking up, so we might have maybe more lockdown, God forbid, and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to go ahead and finish the assignments earlier on, that is okay with me. Okay, so a few brief on the assignment from last week. This is the Excel, which was the end of chapter. And like I mentioned, most of you did very well. This is actually one of your colleagues' file that I'm going to be using here. Now, I did not ask her for permission, so that's why I changed the name here. But if you recognize this as yours, well done. I think you did a very good job. So most of the instructions were provided in the video, and I always encourage you to do that. So some of the things that you're required to do is computing the percentage, and we provided you the formula. So you have this value divided by this, that will give you the percentage. You get the raw value, and then you go to the number and you put the value there for the percentage. And unit price you're given, net sales is just subtracting. This is what was sold, this is what was returned. So you subtract those two, you get the net sales, and then you multiply by the price for each. So this gives you the quantity, you multiply by the price, and you get the sales in dollars. Okay, so technically this should have been using the dollar sign because you're in the US, and then of course you take out the decimal point like that. So something like that is much more presentable. So we can see these are dollars, not goods or whatever. Okay, all other loyalties, you're supposed to be computing these actually using a formula. formula with the royalty rates and things like that. And then we have a bonus here. So we have a bonus value here using the if statement to help us in do that. And what we are saying is that if the percentage of the books returned is less than this value, the person gets 500. So what I said before is always try to make sure that you can figure things out before you start working them or putting the formulas in it, because this is basically what you can do manually. You're automating the process. So the bonus value is, if this value is less than this, then you put this value here, and that's what this if statement does. So you have two outcomes, either 500 or 0. Okay, so that's what we're having here. I think it's giving just blanks for zeros. And then the other earnings is you're going to be adding the royalties to the bonus, and you end up with that. Next page is on the sales. So we're going to be doing some conditional formatting here, and you will highlight this and then go to conditional formatting, manage the rules. I can see what the person did, and you're only using the red for the values that are greater than 9%. So that's what we have for, I'm not sure why this value is supposed to be value greater or equals 9%. So this is actually having some issues right here. So specify that, and then you should correct that. Same thing, net sales. So this is missing something. Net sales is okay. This value is okay. You're supposed to be generating a bar chart based on these values here. And then you have the office reference, and you use these values here to generate your pie chart here. And then you come back and format the pie chart. You have some chart titles, some elements here, data labels, make sure they are available. And then you've got options, and you change that, make sure they are percentages. You've given the row values before, so change that, and on like that. So with the exception of those few issues that we mentioned, for the most part the worksheet looks okay, and I give people credit for effort. And if you try if most of the components are in there, I'll give you credit. But you have to remember, when you go to work in the real world, when you make a mistake, your company can lose money. So you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. So for now, we're allowed to make a few mistakes here and there, but we have to be prepared for when we get to the outside world. So that's the part of last week's assignment. And when we move up here to week 13, make sure because we already did for week for that, so we'll actually be looking at week 14 because we already provided the one for week 13. So this is the file that you're going to be working with. The simulations are the same, so you go to my IT lab and you get your simulations. And let's see, this is where we are. We have the assignment calendar in the main menu, and this is what you're going to be presented with. It's taking a little bit more time to load. So today is 17th. You see there's nothing available, but this is because the assignment have actually been rescheduled before. So when you click on the 9th, chapter 1, this is what you're supposed to be working with, 1, 2, and 3. So this is from previous week 13, and don't want you to be confused with this. So you have 1, 2, and 3, and then mid-level exercise, which is the one down here. So that's what you see right here, and this is due on the 23rd, and the 23rd is this coming Monday. So my advice is don't wait until the weekend to do these exercises, because sometimes you run into problems. Like I've seen people send me an email at 11:50 on Monday night or Sunday night because they're having an issue with an assignment, and sometimes it's too late, because what I do is I plan to grade these assignments the following morning when they're due, so I can give you feedback and you can continue with your work. So if you are sending me emails that late, then you're going to be disrupting my schedule and actually disrupting everybody else's schedule. Now, stuff happens. So if something happens, you're welcome to do that. But please try to make sure that you're being cognizant of your professors and also your colleagues' time. So that's for chapter 1. Chapter 2 is due on the 30th, but you can start working on them, and then on the 23rd, you're going to have chapter 3 available, and then chapter 4 they're also available. So these are the only 4 that you're going to be doing in Access. So if you want to pace yourself, you can actually do this. So like I mentioned before, now I'm giving you some instructions on how to go about working on the end of chapter, and then before the end of the week I'll give you instruction how to go for chapter 3 and then for chapter 4. So if you want to pace yourself, you can do that. Finish the work earlier, there's no harm in that. Okay, so the file, the exact instructions, if you want to use the book, you can click on the December 20th, and then you have the book through here. Any of this should be able to give you the instructions. So click on this, then you can type, and that will take you here. And let's see the instructions for week 14. And I'm hoping it's going to be a 1-session video. So this is read and complete the instructions for the Newcastle County Technical Service on page 804 in your e-text. So we're going to be working with this file. Like always, I've given you some files here that you can use just in case you're having difficulties accessing this file. But let's see, if we go to our book here and we type 804, enter, is it going to take us there? Says we are out of this range because you're using the Access book. So let's try to use the Excel. So I was trying to use the Access book. Let me try to use the Excel book, and that's the page that it gives me. So that's 805, but I want to start from 804. So 804, I just typed 804 here, and that gives me that. Okay, come on, come on. Okay, sometimes the system takes some time. Okay, so we have here 804, and this is what you're working with. So read a little bit of this, and then it says open the database tag and save it to that. So this is the file that you saved from chapter 1. So you're going to open it and then give it a name. So you're going to be changing from 1 to 2 here. That's the main difference. Okay. Now they tell you if you have not done that, make sure you do that. So what I can do is, like always, I'm going to try and minimize this, and it's not actually working nicely for me. So what I can do is I can move this right there, and then I'll try to open that file. So this is not the file that you should be working with. You should be working with the file from your assignment from chapter 1. So actually maybe I should make this file unavailable so I don't confuse you. Okay, so open all those things, tells you your security issues, click enable, and you have that. So always click enable if you trust the file. I think we mentioned that at the beginning. And you should have this structure. So this is your access file, and then my instructions are right where here. Where did they go? Let me see where my instructions went. Right here. So I have my instructions here, and I have my database file here. So I have those two here, and you can do a split screen if possible. Okay, so I'll walk you through some of these instructions here, and then I hope you'll be able to apply them when you're working on the assignment. So open the course type table. Now remember, this is the database that you work from the previous chapters, chapter 1. So you're opening that file. You're not opening the one on Blackboard. Okay, so open the core types table in design view before you create your queries. You want to modify some of the table properties. Okay, so open the core types. So we have 4 tables here. We are going to be working with a query. We have not created one yet. We'll see how to create and modify one. But before we do that, we want to make some changes to our tables, or what we call the entities. So the first one that we're going to be working with is what we're calling the call types. So open the call types table, call types right here. Double clicking opens it in the datasheet view, or you can also right click and you say design now is in datasheet, or you can change between that and that. So open the call type table in design view. So you want to go to design view, you can also open it through here. So datasheet view, design view. And then this takes you to how you're able to work and set up the field names and the data type and all that. So we open that before you create your query. So set the caption of the hourly rate field. So identify the hourly rate field. So we have 3 fields here: call type, which is the primary key, description, and the hourly rate. And the caption is going to be set under the properties. So this is where you set the field properties for your database. And sometimes you've gone on the internet and you're entering some information and it's requiring you to enter like the phone number, and there's a format for how you have to enter that phone number. First 3 numbers, then 3 numbers, then 4 numbers. The same thing like for Social Security. There's a way that it is set up: 3 numbers, 2 numbers, and then 4 numbers, like that. So that is part of what you're calling the field properties, and you set them down here. So on the internet, if you have a format like that, the person who did the programming has already set up those properties. So that's what you're going to be doing here. So anytime that you click on the field name, then the properties description will be showing down here. Okay, so there are some that have been set by default, like the field size. There's usually going to be 255 characters by default. So our rate, we don't have anything that has been set under the caption. Now the caption is actually the name that you'll be seeing when you go to the data sheet view. So if you come down here with the sheet view, this is our table, and we have the field name. The first one is called type ID, which is the primary key. And then we have the description, and then we have the hour rate. You see this hour rate here? This is not how usually we view or pronounce or describe data for the humans to see. So this is how we provided the name in the database, but we want to have a more user-friendly name. So that's why we're going to be changing the caption. So we need to change this to be something that human being can easily understand or relate to. So when we come to the design view, basically, instead of showing this, we want to be showing the value down here under the caption. So we'll say the name should be hourly. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put something here so you can see the difference. Okay. So let's say new name. So we have the new name like that. And then you come back to the data sheet view and say yes. And you see the difference. So now we have the new name. So that's what you call the caption. That's the name that you see when you're viewing the data in the actual datasheet view. Okay, so the field names are changed. Instead of having that hour rate thing, we have something that we can very easily identify with. So that's what you do with here. Then view the table in that and see the changes per prompt. So we actually already did that. When we moved there, we're able to change, and then you're able to see that. Close the table. So this is the table. We are told to close it. You can close it like that. And then make the following additional changes to the table. So open the calls table. This is the calls table. And change the data type of the call type to number. So you go to open the table by double clicking. And then you can go to the design view. And then you told the call type. So the call type ID here. Call type ID to number. Field to number. So the data type is right here. And you're changing it from short text to a number. You click right here. Arrow pointing down, and then you pick the type of data that you want. So sometimes when you're entering information, you only want to show like the date somebody was hired, or when you have an appointment, you want that to be date specific, so you specify the type of data to be date. The same thing if you are working with money, you want it to be reflecting money, like in a bank account. Some of the data field, you only want them to have only 2 options, either a yes or a no. As soon as you can use a checkbox, and you have seen those, so that's how you check that. If you want somebody to be able to attach a file, that's how you set it to be an attachment. So in that way, when somebody gets there, they're going to be prompted to attach a file. Like when you're working in Excel and or in Blackboard actually, and you have to submit a file and you have to submit. So that has been set as to accept an attachment. Sometimes a hyperlink, you can provide a hyperlink, sometimes calculated field where you're going to be doing computations, and on like that. So that's how you set the data types. Okay, you make sure you're in the right field name, and then you move the right, and you set that by clicking and moving on. So you're going to be setting that. Then set the caption for hours logged. So hours logged, the same way, you click on the hours logged, and then you come down the caption, and you type the type of caption that you want right here. Okay, set the caption for that, set the caption for that. Customer satisfaction, you have all those. Set the different caption, and then view the datasheet in datasheet view. So you come back here once you finish doing that, datasheet view, and you should see everything that you have changed should be reflecting the right type of caption. Okay. So that's where we are. Okay, open the customers table in design view. So you have the customers table. Instead of double clicking, you can actually right click and then just go to design. Okay, that shows you the design of that, and set the field size of company name to 50. So you have the company name, and the field size we said by default is 255. So you're going to be changing that. Okay, so it explains to you how that one is set up. Okay, so sometimes you want to limit how much information people can put in a field, and that also helps to minimize the errors. Okay, so that's why we have that. And to change the prompt, you'll close the any data by making these changes to yes. Okay, so let's do this. So we have 50. We change that to 50, and then click yes. View the save the changes when prompted. Open customer table interviews, that, and the caption to company name. So you have the caption. Okay, so instead of having these both names, you just have the company name. So you type the company name right there. And we can do this company space name. View data sheet. So you come back here and then you go to data sheet. You click yes to save it. So yes again. And now you can see the company name is now not that one name, but it's two names actually. Open the customers table in design view, set the field to that. If you already did that, open the reps table in design view, set the caption. You can do this now, because what you do is you come to the reps and then you go to the datasheet view and you play around with these values over here. So that finishes that part. And I'm hoping that you're able to actually see the things that you did in simulation coming to life. Because sometimes when you're doing the simulation, you're just clicking. Sometimes you watch a video, but now you can see the relevance of what you're doing. You're actually working on a real database, okay? Creating some data, and when you apply this to a real organization, you hopefully will be able to make a difference in their operations. Okay, so after we've done working on these tables, we need to create what we're calling the relationship. Now, we call Microsoft Access a relational database management system. So there's the word relationship, and the relationship comes from the fact that we have these 4 different tables, and those 4 tables are related. So they are connected. So we are going to be creating those relationships. Now, because of those relationships, that's how we are able to query or get some results from our table. If you don't have that relationship between these different tables, then you're not going to be able to get much data from your tables. That's why when you go to the bank, like an ATM, and you want to withdraw some money, and they ask you, do you want to get your money from checking or savings account? You have different tables with the bank for your account. And basically, because of the concept of the relationship, the relational database management system, they are able to link those different tables. And you're able to move money from one account to the other one, withdraw some money, make a deposit. That is all enabled by what you're calling a relational database management system. The same way, at the end of the semester, you're going to be probably trying to find out how you performed in all your classes. So if you're taking 3 classes from 3 different departments, at the end of the semester, you're going to be able to get a grade all your grades in one location. That is enabled because of what you're calling relationship. Each department has information about you and the class that you're taking. But because of the relationship, all those tables are linked, and you can go in and generate what you're calling a query that will give you the information that you're looking for on your transcript. Okay, so your transcript is actually an example of what you're calling a query. Okay, question. You're questioning the database. Okay, sending some request, and then it gives you some feedback, some information. Okay, so we're going to be creating the relationship, and to do that, we'll go to the database window right here, and we have our tables here. So if you want, you can close this. It doesn't make any harm. If you just want to close that, so you can have those working space here. And then when you click on the relationship, you don't have any relationship now. Now, from the previous assignment, you should have had some relationship, I think. So if you're using the file from the previous assignment, you probably will have some relationships here. But just in case you don't, if you want to recreate the relationship, it's very easy. What you need to do is, this is your template. This is your workspace. Okay, what you can call like a sandbox. So create the join line between the calls type and the calls table. So you have the calls type. You can click and hold and drag it here. Or you're doing the calls type, and the calls table, and you can just double click. If you double click, the table moves up here, and then you can move it around like that. Now, for you to create a relation between these two tables, you need to have some field names that are common in both tables, all entities. So you have this key here. It tells you that the call type ID is the primary key. So you need to have this field repeated in the other table if you want to increase the size here just like that. So this is the primary key here. It needs to be a foreign key in the other table. If you move down here, call type, you see it is right here. So in this table, this is not a primary key, it's a foreign key. This is what you call the primary or the parent table, and this is what you're calling a child table. Okay. So to create the relationship, you bring the mouse pointer right here, click and hold, and then you just drag to the field that are the same, and then you drop. And then once you drop, you see this pop-up window. So this pop-up window ensures that you are adhering to the requirements here. It tells you enforce the referential integrity and cascade update related fields. So referential integrity, reference, and integrity. So basically what we are saying is, with this table, we want to make sure that anytime that we make any changes to this table, those changes are going to be reflected in here. Okay, and you can think of it like with the concept of reference. You have one person who is giving 5 people references, for instance, for a job. So the credibility of this one person is determining what happens to these 5 people who he is giving reference to. Now, if something was to happen to this person who is giving the reference, like for instance, if their credibility is questioned, then it means that the credibility of those references that he or she gave is going to be questioned. So what we are saying is that we want to make sure that when we have this table here and we make any changes to this table, those changes are going to be reflected down here. If we come back here and we delete some information in this table, then that information should be, anything that is related to the information in this table should be automatically deleted in these other tables. Okay, so that's the concept of the referential integrity. So we check this box here and then cascade. So if cascade means if we make any changes here, they should be reflected down here, either additions or subtraction. And then from there we click create, and you're told the type of relationship is what you call one-to-many. Okay, like what I say, one person can give reference to 5 or more people. Okay, 1, 2, 3, or 4 more people. So that's what's called one-to-many relationship. So create. Okay, click OK there, and it's going to tell you to save, and all the way like that. So it's the relationship must be on the same number of fields with the same data type. Okay, what did I choose? Call type ID, call type ID. Did we change something down somewhere? Okay, so let me check this real quick, and I'll go to the call types and go to the design view. Call types is a number, okay, and the calls, the design is, see the problem is a short text. Call type should be a number, so you have to change that, make sure that is a number also. That was the problem, okay, and then you can save that. And now when I come back to my relationships, it should be able to work, because the call type and the call type ID and call type ID, they have to be the same data type. That was the problem. So hold it and drag it down there, and call type, and enforce that. Click on that, and click on create. Could not lock the table because it's already used another. Okay, so it tells me somebody's using the table. Who is using the table? Which table is being used? Okay, so some of you might be having the same issue that I'm having. So what I'm going to do is I'll close that, and just leave the relationship open, and try again, and do that, and click create, and now I see that. So remember, if you have some tables down here, make sure you close them, because the system is assuming that somebody is using that table and does not want that to happen. So this is what you call one-to-many relationship. You have a 1 here, and then you have this infinity symbol, which is representing many. Okay, so that's the first part here. Call types and call tables, and then set a relationship between reps and calls. So we have reps, move it here, and then you have calls, so reps and calls here. So make sure that there is a field that's going to be the same. So you have rep ID, and then you have rep ID here. So this is a foreign key, primary key, foreign key. So you can set it like that. and you have that, enforce that and that, because they told you to do the same things. And then click on create, and you have that relationship has been created right there. And the last one is between customers and calls, using the same option, between customers and calls. So customers, move the customers table here, and you have which field. So customer ID, so primary key, foreign key. Bring the mouse pointer here, hold and drag right there, and force cascade, and then click create, and there you go. So this looks a little bit messy. So what you can do is, if you want to maximize this, you can do that, and you can play around with it. So how do you set these up? So these are all this way. So maybe this should be right there. You can do that. Maybe this should be right here. Okay, so that's a little bit much better. Okay, so you see the organization. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just clicking and holding and adjusting. Okay, so you can see the relationships, one to many, one to many, one to many, like that. Then you can come back and you have your relationship like that. If you want to close this, you can do that. Okay, so now I have all my tables here, and now they are linked. Okay, so this is how now you are going to be able to create a query, because now you can see the relationship have been created. We have implemented the differential integrity and the cascading and all that, and the relationship is enabled because we have the primary keys and the foreign keys. Okay, this is the parent, child. This is the parent, child. So the parent has the primary key, the child has the foreign key. Okay, so create a multi-table query. So a query that's coming from multiple tables. You can create a query from just one table, okay? But you want to make sure that you create multi-table query. That's possible because we have this. Following the following steps. So add the following field in this order. So now we don't have any query, you're going to be doing that. So you click on create, okay? And then you're going to be creating a query. So we've been working with tables, or entities, queries, and then down the road we'll work with forms and reports, and maybe macros down the road if you do a little bit of programming. So the easiest way to create the queries is using what's called a query wizard, which is an automated process that walks you through the process of creating these queries. Okay, so if you click on query wizard, it gives you this pop-up window. Okay, and you just want to use the simple query wizard and click OK, and a pop-up window will show up here. So this is where you're going to be setting up the tables. You're asking your table to give you different fields. It's actually what you do when you're getting your transcript, but it's already been automated. You click buttons here, and there, and then it gives you the output. But basically what's happening is generating all the records from the different classes that you took, okay, and from the different departments, and bringing all of them into one location. So add the following fields in this order: call ID from calls. So the calls is a table. So table here, you select the calls table like that, and these are the fields that are in the calls. If you remember, we have the calls. These are the fields in the calls, and we are adding what? Call ID. Call ID is the first one. Select it, and then click on this arrow here to move it to this location down here. From calls, and then description from call types. So call types, the table is call types right here, and you have description. So click on it, select it, and then click on the arrow to move it to your right. And company name from customers. So the customers table right there, and then you have the company name right there, and you're adding them in this order. If you make a mistake, just select it and click it and move it back. Okay. And we have the last one, rep first and last from the reps. So the reps table right there, and you have the first like that, and then the last. So these are the fields that you're going to be using to create the query. So this is a query that is coming from multiple tables. Okay, when you go to your bank and you want to see your balance from your what? Checking account, savings account, investment account, all that. You're getting a query from multiple tables, and you're going to have different types of fields. So that's what you're doing here, okay? And after that, we're told to run the query, okay? So sometimes if you're in the design, that's where we are. If you go to create, you'll see the run button, but you can just click finish. You click finish the same way as running the query, okay? So by running the query, you're basically creating the query. And now you have the queries here, the calls query, okay? And you can see the data that's contained in here, okay? So we have all this information. We had description, company name, rep first, and rep last. So this is the type of query that we have been able to create, and you can see it's really a long query, okay? So this is a report, a query that is coming from multiple tables. So we're going to be making some changes to this query. Okay, so do that and then run the query and then modify it to add hourly log from the calls. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you go to the design view of this query, right click and then you go to the design view. Okay, you see we have our relationship down here, but we are more interested in the design of the query. So I'm going to increase the size here like that. And this is the design of the query. If you want to take the relationship, you can actually do that. Click yes. And you have, this is the design view of the query. And you have the field names, the call ID, description, company name, rep first and rep last. Remember, we selected that. And these are the different tables that we had. And we are showing those fields. If you don't want to see some of the fields, you can actually uncheck this button, checkbox here. So we are told to add the following fields. We did that, run the query, and then modify it to add hourly logged from the calls. Okay, so the field right here, you'll come to the last section here, and then you select. So this is a lot of fields. So the easiest way to do it is actually start with the table, because we know the table that we are working with is the calls. So select the calls table like that, and then if you click here, it's going to give you the option. These are the fields that are in the calls table, and we are working with the hours logged. So the hours logged like that, and you're going to be showing it. Okay, so run the query, then modify it to add that. Sort the query by hourly logged. So we can also do the sorting right here. Click on this section here. You see that arrow pointing down, it gives you those options, and we're doing it by ascending order. So you probably did this in the simulation, I hope, but now it's coming a little bit more live. Ascending order, set the criteria of the hourly logged field to is not null and run the query again. So the criteria, we're going to be setting that we want to see the values that have entries that at least have a value. So you set the different criteria, and there are different options for setting the criteria. So just type the name that you're given is not null, and basically we're saying that we want to see the values, the fields, the records that have a value in the hours that somebody logged. Okay, so we have that, and run the query again. So if you click here, and we want to see, or we're going to be running the query. Okay, so under the design, now you can run the query. So click on that button here. Run is executing. Okay, so we made those changes. Now we want to click on run, and once you run, you generate that. Now you can see we added this field name here. It was not there before. Then we have values here. At least there is a value. Okay. Okay, we are seeing the ones that at least have a value. If you go back to the design and you change here and you say is null, you change that like that. Let's see what happens if you say you only want to see what is null and run the query. Okay, it shows you these are the empty ones. Nobody logged in any hours in this session here. Okay. So that's showing you the values that are empty. So null means empty, not null, not empty. Okay. So the design view, you have that, and then you can see the ascending order. So it was not null, and then the values were ascending. You should do the descending is the opposite. Run that, and you start from the highest to the lowest. Okay. So note that. Okay, I'm gonna come back here. You see what is left. Modify the criteria of the hour log field, that and that, and that and that. Okay, so we'll go back to the design. With design and the criteria. Now we're changing from not null to modify the criteria of the hours logged to that. So we want the values that are only between 5 and 10. Okay. So on your keyboard, you type greater and then the equal sign. Remember, there is no one keyboard button that will give you these two, and this has been a problem sometimes for very many students. So you have to do this 2 times. Okay, so above the space bar on your right, you have those symbols, greater or less than, and then the equal sign. So greater or equal to 5, and less or equals to 10. Okay, so you're putting that under the criteria. So what you're telling the system is, I only want to get those values. And this is what you do when you go to your, for instance, your bank, and you say you only want to see, even your credit card, like you're looking at your balance, and you say you want to see the transaction between a certain period. Okay, you're setting the criteria like this because you're in the database. So you're setting the criteria and you send that information, you run that query. When you hit submit, you're actually running that query, and the system will return the values for you. So now we'll be seeing the values that are only between 5 and 10. When you click run, see hours logged is assigning all the values between 5 and 10. Okay. Remember before we had the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to 13. Now we only have values between that. So we are setting that criteria. Okay. Modify the criteria of hours logged and description to disaster recovery and rep to Barbara. So actually we have to do some other things. So you come back here to design and you have to come to description. So you're told the description should be disaster. So you come in here and you just type the name the way it is, disaster. Okay. And disaster recovery, actually, I'm sorry. So disaster recovery, make sure you type it correctly. And what? And the rep to Barbara. Okay. The rep, first name, Barbara. Okay. So I'm type the word Barbara there, but I'm going to leave it blank. And run. So disaster recovery. So you run. You only see the ones that are disaster recovery, and the name should be. So if I had typed Barbara, I'll only be able to see the ones for Barbara. Okay. So let me say Takio. Let me do something different. Rename. Oh, okay. No, I'm not supposed to be doing rename. I'm supposed to be doing design. And Takio or Takio. I don't know how you spell that. Maybe pronounce that. See, I only have that. Now remember, yours should be Barbara. Okay, so that's how you go about doing that. And save the query as that. Run and close that. Okay, so you have that. So you can rename. That's what you mean by save. It says you cannot rename because it's open. So just close here. Say yes to save it, and then right click. And then come to rename. And what you're going to see is sometimes you try something, it doesn't work, try a few things. So like here they're saying save and then rename. And you see when we try to do that, it doesn't work. So we had to kind of like do what? Save and then come back and rename. So we're going to rename it and give it this name right here. Okay. So new query. And you can press enter and good, you're good. So that's our query. Now create a copy of that. So creating a copy is you just right click and then you say what? Copy, and then come back here and you paste. Okay, and then you see a copy of that, click OK, and you have that. So you created a copy of that. And save the copy to that, so you can rename that. Okay, so that's the new one. And modify the following, save the copy of that to that, and then modify the query so that it displays Barbara's network selection calls that log between 5 and 10 hours. Save, run, and then blah, blah. So the same way you'll come back here to the design, and remember you had Barbara here, okay? But now instead of what? So the description displays Barbara's network installation. So instead of disaster recovery, you're going to be doing network. You're going to be doing network installation calls, I think. Network installation. Okay, and then you hit run, and that's what you have. Now remember, it's supposed to be for Barbara, not for Takio. Okay, and that's network installation. So just type the information that you're given, and then you save it, and you're good to go. Okay, between 5 and 10 hours. Okay. Okay, 5 and 10 hours, that is it. So save that and you're done with this part of the assignment. So I hope that at least helps you to be able to see the relationship and bring the concept that you're learning in the simulation home. And we'll continue doing this until we finish. Remember to reach out if you have any concerns or any comments. Always available, and continue staying safe. COVID cases are going up, but medicine and vaccines are coming out, so that's a good thing. All the best and be safe.